for coming. My name is Gavin Yeomans, and this is my capstone project. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that Laurier's Waterloo campuses are located on the shared traditional territory of the neutral and Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. This land is a part of the District 1 Spoon Treaty between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, and symbolizes the agreement to share, protect our resources, and to not engage in conflict. So, the capstone project is part of the studio degree for every piano student, where we have to, in our 4th year, create our own self-directed project without much direction from the teachers. It's just whatever we want to do. I'm a piano performance major, so I wanted to put on a performance of the works of Robert Schumann, who is a brilliant 19th century German composer who lived a relatively short and tragic life, but very interesting nonetheless. To start with, I'll be playing the first movement from his Opus 26, Flaschenschrank aus Wien. That means Carnival Jest in Vienna. This work was composed around the middle of his life, and the Carnival Jest in question is that it's a very playful piece in several movements. The first movement, around the middle, features a quote of a very familiar national anthem that some people might recognize. And at the time of this writing, the national anthem was actually banned in Vienna, where it performed the piece. So it's kind of taking a bit of a jab at the establishment in a way. Here's Flaschenschrank aus Wien. while now.
Yeah, I started
as a personal student. This is his first year. So I thought, since I'm doing a project on Robert Schumann, why not put Wil to perform with me? So Dixierlied is one of the most well-known song cycles in Romantic repertoire, up there with two other song cycles by Schubert. And it is about a poet's love. That's what the title means. Poems in question are composed by Heinrich Heine, who was a German Romantic poet. Will, would you like to say anything about Heinrich Heine in Dixierlied?
Yeah, Heinrich Heine was a very popular. A lot of German composers that composed Lied, which is this style of music, use a lot of his work. So a lot of I'm very accustomed to his name. For specifically Die Liebe, it's the story of, as the name suggests, a poet's love, but it's not a nice love. As a lot of romantic period things are, it ends in tragedy, and we start this after this is all resolved. This is him remembering and going back through the process of remembering his love. At the beginning, we start with Im wunderschönen Monat Mai, the merry month of May, when he fell in love and that reminds him of all that kind of things. And by the end, we're talking about him wanting to, in the most dramatic fashion possible, put all of his emotions into a coffin so heavy that it would need 12 giants with the strength of St. Christopher to carry it into the ocean so that he would be free from his love and his longing for the person he loves so much. What's really interesting is Schumann is, in a lot of ways, a pianist first. He became very popular for his Lied, but was initially a composer for piano. And it really shows up a lot in this piece, in this song cycle, in a couple of different ways. One of my favorite ways is in number 10. I'm talking about how there's this music that I love and that I shared with this person that I love, but it is no longer ours. I am no longer a part of it. She's now sharing it with somebody else. In a very interesting fashion, the piano tells that story while I'm singing it, because I don't cadence at the end. I don't resolve. I don't get a happy ending in that song, and the piano just has this beautiful melody that just goes on without me.
Yeah, in many ways, the piano is entirely unaffected by his singing. It starts before and it ends long after he's already gone. This is also reflected in movement 16, the final movement of the piece, where after he says that he's going to put all of his love and sorrow into this coffin and throw it in the ocean so that he's free of it forever, the singer is kind of left in this stasis, this like peacefulness, as the piano moves on and does this extremely peaceful, kind of muted postlude, as the singer's like left without any emotion, any baggage. He's just himself. So here's our selection.
Selections, yeah.
vergesset all mein Leid und Weh. Doch wenn ich küsse deinen Mund, so werd ich ganz und gar gesund. Wenn ich mich lehm an deine Brust, kommst über mich wie himmelslos. Doch wenn du Yes,
more of fashion schmack out the end. For the next three movements of the piece, Romance, Scherzino, and Intermezzo. The Romance is the smallest and by far the most sad of the collection, which is ironic for a romance. And then it is followed promptly by a Scherzino, which means a small joke. It's very light and fun and bouncy, and then it includes an intermezzo, which brings back a bit more of the darkness and drama that's found inside. If you could, sorry, just leave the door open, then other people can go further. Perfect, thanks. Our last work will be featuring the Scherzando Piano Quintet, which consists of myself on piano, Wil on viola, Angelina Stiller and Luisa Suarez on violin, and Phil on the cello. So if you guys can all come on up.
Small
So we were formed as a group at the beginning of last term for the chamber course that Wilfrid Laurier required for performance students. And it was actually my dream and my goal to actually be able to play with the piano quintet, because there is an incredible amount of just beautiful music written for this ensemble, but it's tricky to coordinate this many musicians outside of just being in a class together. And even with that, it's hard to schedule the persons. So we played this work, which is the first movement of Schumann's only piano quintet, last year, or last term, I should say, in our chamber concert. And I thought, well, we're doing a concert of Schumann, so why don't we pull this back out and play it again? So I asked them, and they kindly agreed. And here it is. Let's just take a tuning note. Where would you like to take it?
Thank